the show where we explore the real stories, strategies, and mindset shifts behind building not just a business, but a lifestyle. Running a business can be challenging. It takes courage, with lots of ups by taking action, and often the downs are our lessons. We're going to dive into the decisions, the mindsets, and the life lessons behind those moves so you can take away practical ideas. I do hope these guests, what we've put together, can make you take action on your goals. So let's get started. Hello, Giuseppe Leon. Welcome to the Hylton Forrester show. Giuseppe Leon is a property investor and he's got a portfolio of properties. Welcome. Before we unpacked a lot of the questions, could you tell the listeners more about yourself and how you got started in property, Giuseppe?
Yes. Hi, everyone. First of all, Hilton, thank you so much for inviting me to your amazing podcast. I'm really excited to be here, honored to be here. So thanks a lot for the invitation. So for those who don't know me, my name is Giuseppe Leone. I'm Italian, as you can tell from my accent, obviously. But I lived for 20 years in England, in Bristol. Property-wise, I started in 2014. And at that point, I was still working for Shell, the oil company. I worked for this company for 19 years. In fact, my first and last job interview took place in 1998. And then I worked for Shell for all my career. And then in 2014, while I was still working for it, I decided that I want to create an additional income stream. And at that time, I didn't know anything about properties. So I decided to join a mentoring course where it was a group mentoring course. So I was one of the 10 students or mentees in that group, and for 12 months. And that was a life-changing experience. I started with rent-to-rent, HMO, and the reason for that is because I want that stable, consistent, predictable monthly income or cash flow into my bank account, because my goal was firstly to replace my salary and my wife's salary. And we achieved that very quickly. My wife's salary after 1 year and my salary a year and a half later. So since 2017, I've been working in properties full time. And I've used rent-to-rent in a quite, let me say, sophisticated way. So it was not just simply to replace my salary, but what I did is I achieved that goal first. And then I decided to keep growing my rent-to-rent HMO business because I want to purchase my own properties. Because as you guys might know, rent-to-rent is great for cash flow, but you don't own the asset. And so you are not in control of it. You don't benefit from potential capital appreciation over time, and you cannot pass it over to the next generation if that's what you want to do. And but I want to do all of that. So I kept growing my rent business so that I had extra cash then to buy my own HMOs. And the way I did it is using the strategy BRR, buy, refurbish, and refinance. So I used to buy in cash through my investor, very rundown 3-bedroom houses, the one with the pink carpet in the toilet, if you know what I mean. And I love it. As soon as I see pink carpet in the toilet, there is room for improvement here. And then I always expanded these houses either on the side or on the back and turned them into a 5-bedroom, 2, 3, or 4-bathroom HMOs, stylish one like the background behind me. And so basically, I force appreciation through this refurbishment, and I paid for the refurbishment. So my investor paid for the purchase of the property, and I paid for the refurbishment so that I could show that I had skin in the game. It was a risk in my mind as well, on top of my time. And I think that is very important because it's good to say, okay, I manage all the project, but if you don't risk the money equally with your investor, I personally feel very uncomfortable with that. And then now after the refurbishment, the house is worth much more. And then I used to go to the bank and ask for a mortgage on the new value, so the value after the refurbishment. And all the time I managed to get a 75% mortgage, which allowed me to repay back my investor capital plus interest, and then get back myself a part of my money I invested into the refurbishment. And then
Yeah.
I look for a new pink carpeted toilet, and I called back my investor and said, "Do you remember the money I gave you last month, 2 months ago? Can you give them back to me because I find another one?" And I recycle my cash in that way. And cutting a long story short, in 2021, I managed to complete the building of my portfolio in the size I had planned in 2014. And then since then, I started mentoring people on rent, how to set up and scale up your rent business, because still now, today, 11 years later, I'm still running my rent business. So I teach what I've been doing every single day since 2014. And the exciting bit of at the moment, this month, we are launching with my two very good friends, Steve Curtis and Amjad Mikhail, a new community in school. It's called UK and Dubai Property Accelerator, where we are going to show you guys and teach you guys how to cash flow in UK and potentially in Dubai. So it's a really exciting experience and venture. So watch this space because I will post on social media a lot about this soon. So
Awesome.
that's me in a nutshell.
That's a fantastic introduction, Giuseppe. And here, with me, my background being construction as well, I've actually worked for a lot of landlords, and in the UK there is 2 to 2.5 million landlords. You must have come across some people who have been doing it badly in terms of
Absolutely.
the way how they actually have properties, and they because a lot of people do get properties for their pension. What do you think is the gap in between a good landlord or a landlord who is just basically trying to earn the money in it?
Yeah, very good question. Yes, I met a lot of very good landlords, but met also a few interesting one, let's call it this way. Not very professional. And that type of landlord really frustrates me because in reality, being a good landlord is a win-win situation, because if you have got a good house, if you are 100% compliance, which for me, compliance must be 100%, 99% is not good enough. You need to be 100% because most of the compliance, if not everything, is all about safety. And so you cannot shortcut safety. Okay. And if you do all of that, then your tenants are very happy. You will have less maintenance. You will have less complaint for your tenants. And so the tenants is happy, you're happy. It's a really magic combination. If you are a cheeky landlord or a rug landlord, the tenants will keep complaining. There is a lot of stress there. It is not a good experience. And the worst landlord I met, I still remember that landlord is very successful in terms of size, portfolio landlord in Bristol, and he owns basically a street, and I really mean it. You know, he has got a lot of property in that street, and I work with him on a rent-to-rent basis. So I had 4 of his properties. And one day, one of my tenants called me and she said her bedroom was under the roof, so on the loft, the top. And she said, "Giuseppe, there is a leak from the roof straight on my bed." It was almost a waterfall. Okay. So obviously I called the landlord immediately and I say, "Hey, there is this problem. Can you send a roofer today?" And he said, "No, no, no, no. It's nothing serious. Honestly, move your bed and then put a bucket under the waterfall. You can
Ah,
imagine my reaction. He learned a few Italian words, probably.
yes.
And the result was that even if it was a rent-to-rent deal for a long time, I just gave the kids back because my contract with them, with the landlord, says that in case of emergency maintenance, the landlord needs to act within 24 hours. And he didn't, so he breached the contract, and I gave them the kids back because I cannot work with someone like this. I care a lot about my tenants. For me, my tenants are my customer. I call them customers. And so I need to give, I want to give a customer experience that they will never forget. They need to be happy with me. Okay. We know all our tenants by first name. They love working with us, being in our houses. And for the reason I said before, because if they're happy, there is less work for us, and then they keep their house and they treat their house nicely. And then when they move out, they recommend my room to their mates, family, and so on. So it's really a positive situation, and for me, it's a no-brainer, and that's the way I am.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. That's a great story. I know from my relationship with you, you're now living in Mallorca, and you've moved
Yes.
across and into a warm climate, which is incredible.
Absolutely.
Could you walk me through how you got to that situation where you was in the UK and then you moved across there with all your family?
Yes, no, absolutely. That was the craziest decision of my entire life. So as you said correctly, I lived in UK for a long time. In fact, I lived in UK for 20 years, and I love it. It's a great place. It still feels home for me. My two kids were born in Bristol. My wife is English, so I've got a lot of connection there. But after 20 years, I want to do something different. I needed a change. I don't know if it's a middle age crisis or not, but that's what I needed. And and we tested the remote management of the property in COVID. So we found out in COVID that actually you don't need to be physically there to manage your property. In fact, in COVID, we couldn't go out because we were, in lockdown and so on. But still, we were managing our properties through technology and a proper setup. And so in 2023, we had a lot of medical issues in my family. My wife and my sister had a very nasty illness. Thank God they're all fine. My son, my youngest one, was injured seriously playing tennis. So we decided that we needed a change. And it's one of the discussions you do over Christmas lunch. After one bottle of wine, you come up with the crazy ideas. And I said, why don't we move abroad? And in my bucket list has always been the idea of living by the beach in a sunny place. And under my house here, there is one of the most beautiful beaches in Mallorca. And so we look into it seriously. And last year, 28th of July, 2025, 2024, sorry, we moved to Mallorca. And how we manage our business. So first of all, we've got, as I said, a very good relationship with our tenants. So a lot of times where we need maybe a handyman or a trade person to move into the house to do some jobs, we contact our tenants and we check if any of them can let that person in. Okay. Sometimes, most of the times it works. Sometimes it doesn't, obviously. And then we've got somebody with the boots on the ground. So we've got one person that I know very well, is a friend of us, who we pay by the hour. And he is available because of his work situation. It's very flexible. So we can call this guy and say, please, can you go to the house this moment and this time and do this job? Or let this person in and so on, or check something, because sometimes the tenants call you, say there is a maintenance issue, but they are not experienced, okay? And so a lot of maintenance issue, as you know, you're in construction, a lot of maintenance issue can be sorted remotely without needing to get somebody there. And especially now with YouTube, For example, if the boiler loses the pressure, it's really easy to put the pressure back. You just need to know which tap you need to move into to the boiler. And so we have got all this system in place. And plus in Mallorca, there is one of the biggest airport in Europe. So I can fly to UK 3-4 times a day, every single day. And the funny bit is, as you know, Hilton, I go to London once a month for the property network event. And when I used to do it, go from Bristol to London by train, that journey was more expensive than me flying from Mallorca to London. Okay? So my flight, because I book it in advance, is cheaper than the train from Bristol to London, which is crazy, but that's the way it is. And so that's what we did. And you know, to be honest, I a little bit evaluated the complexity of it, because I moved from from Italy to Germany and then to England for work. But I was alone. You know, I didn't have kids. I didn't have a wife. So it was very easy to move. Now this time I moved abroad, but with a wife and 2 kids, and this is much more complex and complicated.
Yeah.
Overall, great experience. We are still very happy. We decided to stay here longer than the original plan, but it's not perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
so on Instagram it sounds very glamorous and so on. The reality is there are challenges anyway, but it's worth it. And for me, the most important thing is we really want to do this experience, and even if we decide to go back to England at one point, we will not have regrets. And that's my motto, my life. I don't want to live my life with the regrets. It might not be a good experience, but at least I tried. And if you try it, you are in peace with yourself. And that's the way I live.
Yeah, fantastic. That's a great answer. But when it comes to your properties, then you've got people in the UK, but you're in Mallorca.
Yeah.
And generally, how does that look from day to day? What is your procedures towards getting people to do things instead of actually having things going wrong and then fixing them? Is there a system what you've got there for the make sure that the landlords, the tenants are safe and everything like that?
So, no, that's a very good question. So, in every single house, so all my houses are HMO, house of multiple occupancy. So, we have got 4, 5, or 6 people living together in this house. And what we got for every single house, we've got a WhatsApp group with all the tenants and my team. And in terms of if there is an issue, usually it's a maintenance issue, the tenants, any tenants, can put a message in the WhatsApp group. So, for example, I say the boiler pressure has dropped. Can you help, please? And what we do is we immediately acknowledge that message, because this is a lesson that I've learned myself. At the beginning, when I started in 2014, I used to ignore these messages because I thought in my silly mindset, I say, if I ignore the message, the maintenance issue will disappear. No, it didn't disappear. What I used to do is, first of all, frustrate my tenants, which is the worst bit of my behavior. And then the maintenance issue was getting worse and worse. And so it was getting more expensive to fix it, as you know better than I do. And so now we have changed. So a lot of time. 10 years ago, we changed. So as soon as we get a message about maintenance, we immediately acknowledge, say, okay, thanks for letting us know about this issue. Now this maintenance job is on our schedule of maintenance, and we will come back to you very shortly with a plan of action. And then what we do is we analyze the issue. And the first scenario is something that we can fix ourselves remotely. So as I said, the same example of the boiler pressure, you go on YouTube, you have got the model of the boiler, and you find the tutorial how to increase the pressure in this boiler. And then we send that video to the tenants and say, okay, follow the instruction in this video and see if it works. If it does, job done. If it doesn't, we have got that person with the boots on the ground who works for us, who is very experienced from maintenance point of view, and he goes there and assess if he can fix it himself.
Yes.
If that fails again, we have got a very experienced handyman who can do. Is one of these people can do anything. Very talented
Yes.
people, and I love that. And so he goes in and he tries again. Failing all of that, we call the person the specialized trade. So in that example, we would call a gas engineer to go there and do what they need to do. For me, in my power team, as I call it, the key role of my power team are two. The first one is the handyman. In fact, I had a handy woman as well at one point. She was a friend, an engineer who was working for us as to fix all the maintenance. And that person really can solve 80% of your problems. And the way we do it is we find these people through recommendation. We interview
Yeah.
them. And what we do is we fix the price per hour, let's say 20 pounds, 25 pounds, whatever. And then we don't need to negotiate anymore every single job. We know that that guy goes in the house, he tells us when he goes in and when he leaves. So it's an hourly rate. And then that's how much we pay. So we take away all the stress of the negotiation or having quotes and so on. And we just go straight and fix the problem. Okay. And the second person, which is really important for us, is we send in our HMOs, we send a cleaner every 2 weeks. And the reason why we send a cleaner is, first of all, we offer a service to the tenants because the cleaner cleans all the communal areas. Okay. So when a potential tenant calls us, we say part of the price that is included in the rent, we offer also, we pay for a cleaner every 2 weeks. And that is, something that they appreciate. But for me, it's also the cleaner is my eyes, my ears. So she goes in and she does a mini inspection. So if she smells something dodgy, or if she sees some maintenance issues that are popping up, or if she sees that the house is kept not in the right way, I get a call. Okay. So I always tell my tenants, you can be cheeky for 2 weeks and then we catch you. So please treat the house properly. And this is also a very good discussion point with the landlords, because when we talk with the landlord for a rent-to-rent deal, we say, as part of our services, we send a cleaner there, which does a mini inspection every 2 weeks. So your asset gets inspected every 2 weeks, while with a normal standard letting agency, a standard letting agency goes in for an inspection once every 6 months, if that. And so your asset lender is kept under scrutiny much more often, and which means that your asset is much more protected. And this is really one of the things that really convinced the lender to work with us.
Yeah, that sounds great. You mentioned that power team with the people around you. You've got to have a good team. I know for me, I've been doing construction for many years, and the people you employ on the site is key. The power team on the site. What about the in the background? If there was people listening to this and they wanted to get into property for the first time, they want to build a portfolio, or they want to be a general investor, what would you advise them to do?
Very good question. The power team is key, is fundamental to scale up. As talented as you can be, you cannot do everything. Okay? Because you are one person and there are only 24 hours a day. And that's the only democratic things on the planet. Everybody's got only 24 hours a day. Okay? And in reality, if you go into property, most of the times you go into property because you don't want to work 40 hours, 50 hours a week. You want to reduce how much you want to work. So if you do everything yourself, you are creating for yourself another job with all the risk of being an entrepreneur, which is not the smartest way. So my strong suggestion, and that's what I did myself, is for the first year, you tend to do everything yourself in terms of managing your business. But then what you do is during that year, you need to create some procedure, operating procedure. So the way you write in a Word document all the steps to execute every single activity that you need to do in order to run your business. And then once your property business allows you, usually is after you get 3 or 4 properties, my strong recommendation is to start delegating what I call 10 pounds an hour activities. So all those activities that you can delegate to someone who can pay, you can pay 10, 15 pounds an hour. And it
Yeah.
is in the HMO world is mainly and primarily finding deals, so scraping internet to find deals. And the second one is tenant finding and tenant management, because these are the really time-consuming activities, but they're not complicated. Once you know how to do it, it's very simple. So the way I did it is for the first year, I did everything myself with my wife, who is my business partner. And then we created these procedures, and then we hired our first employee. And we gave to this employee this procedure and say, okay, Sarah, you need to do the activities in this way. Follow step by step. And this procedure is so detailed that I've got screenshot of the program we might use. So it's really easy to follow. Okay. And this comes from my background. When I was working for Shell, I was operation manager. So I'm really into this operation procedures, because that's, in my opinion, the best way to delegate. And so you need to let it go. Okay. And I made massive mistakes at the beginning, because at the beginning, obviously, you want to save every single penny. So I remember my second rent-to-rent HMO, it needed a repaint, a whitewash, you know, when you paint everything in white. And I thought, I cannot be that sophisticated. It's all white. You don't need to think about colors and so on. I'll do it myself. Well, first of all, it took me 3 weeks to repaint the house. Secondly, the result was awful, absolutely awful. So I really understood that painting is not one of my skills. And the third thing, which is most importantly, I completely invested 3 weeks in that one, but I couldn't do anything in my business. And so thinking backwards, I thought, well, if I had paid a decorator, a professional one, whatever, 1,500, 2,000 pounds, whatever would have been the price. The result, the aesthetic result would have been much nicer, first of all. And secondly, in those 3 weeks, I could have expanded my business or improved my margin in a way that I would have made much more than 1,500, 2,000 pounds that I would have paid to the decorator. So you need to let it go. As a CEO, at the beginning, we say, oh, nobody can do it better than I do. Everybody's a replacement, you know. The guy who invented Apple, Steve Jobs, you know, sadly he passed away. We still got an iPhone in our hands.
Yes.
Okay? Which means that somebody else took his place and the business still runs.
Yeah.
So don't think that you are the only one who can do the job. Okay. I'm sure you are doing your job very well, but you can delegate and train people to become as good as you, if not even better. Okay. I always try to find people who are better than me in those jobs. Okay.
Yeah.
So they can really push my business to the next level.
Awesome. That's a great answer, Giuseppe. I guess it's freeing up that time to sort of, when you've got time, you can think more clearly. You can sit down and think, oh, is everything going well? But working for work's sake, I mean, myself as a contractor, there's many times as growing my business, and then there is basically thinking time to stop and think about what your processes are.
Absolutely.
But that is,
And sorry if I interrupt you. And just to give some numbers. So in the first year, I was doing everything myself with my wife, while we were both working full time, and we had 2 young kids, age 1 and 3. So it was pretty intense time, but we managed to get to sign 6 rent-to-rent deals, and I get my first HMO, for which I won the Property Investor Award, as you can see on the back of my screen. And but then after that first year, where we learn all the processes and we documented all the process. We hired Sarah, our employee. And in the second year, still having the same amount of time that I had in the first year, which was an hour and a half a day dedicated to this business, we went from 6, we had 20 new properties. So same amount of time, but because I was not doing the time-consuming activities like tenant finding, showing the properties to the tenants and so on, I had the time to invest on business expansion, improve my processes, automation, and improving my margin, and so on and so forth. So can you see the same amount of time, we went from 6 to 26, okay?
Yes.
And
yes.
that's because we delegated the time consuming. So this is the key to scale up. It's really, really important.
Yeah, perfect. That's fantastic. And generally, then, how did that affect the margin in terms of the cash flow? Can you unpack that some part of it?
Yeah, well, my margin improved because I had time to look at all my processes and remove all the wastes of the processes and really improve everything. Okay, looking at every single number. So I've got a finance background, so I'm addicted to running profit and loss by property. So all my properties, I know exactly from the income to the bottom line, to the margin, what is happening every month. Okay. And so I look at these numbers every month. And if there is anything I can improve, I just improve it. And this is especially about cost. So for example, with, I don't know, with, what's the name? With the internet. Okay. Sometimes, when you are in a condo for 2 years, after 2 years, the price of internet increase massively. If you are not on top of it, you don't check it. You don't appreciate that. But because I check the numbers every month, I look at that one. As soon as I see a change in price, I immediately challenge it. Okay. Once I had a house where I had nurses from the hospital, because we work a lot with the hospital here in Bristol, and we house the nurses who work in the hospital. And then there was this group of nurses who came from Asia, basically. And the way they wash themselves is different than here in Europe. So instead of going to the shower and have a shower, they tend to have a massive bucket, and then they fill it in with tons of water, and then they wash in this bucket. But the water consumption is much, much higher because for every single shower, you need tons of water. And doing that exercise that I told you earlier, checking my numbers, at one point I saw that the cost of the water for that house was 4 times higher than it should have been. And so I called the water provider. I said, "What's going on here? It's crazy, this price here." And they said, "Well, this is metered, so that's the real consumption." So we went into the house and we spoke with the nurses, and they explained to us the way to do the shower. And I said, "Well, I respect everything, but the shower works really well. So why don't you try to have a shower like in the European way of doing it?" And then they did it, and then the cost went down back to the norm. So what I'm trying to say is you need to be on top of your numbers.
Yes. Yeah.
Consistently every single month. Don't let your accountant tell you at the end of the year that you have lost a lot of money without you knowing about that. Because once the money is lost, it's lost for good. You don't get it back. Okay. But if you discover that you are losing money in a specific area, you can stop that money loss, fixing it straight away. And so that's the way I run my business, with a finance hat in my head, and like cost analysis, which is very, very detailed and consistent.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What came to mind when you was explaining that, Giuseppe, is that me as a contractor, we tend to be more physical. We'll be for instance, doing the building work and doing brickwork and things like that. But then we to look at the numbers at the end of the day is something else. So that a lot of contractors, they complain that they're tired at the end of the day. They've got to go home and then switch their brain into the finance, and that is generally what tends to happen. Or they get their partner to do the bookwork and things like that. So that really, numbers don't lie.
They don't lie.
They don't
Absolutely.
lie. And
Absolutely.
that's really important, that at the end of the day, when you're doing it with your accountant, those numbers need to add up to a profit.
Absolutely. And I fully appreciate the challenge that, people in your industry might have. My strong suggestion is get a sophisticated bookkeeper who can reconcile the numbers every month. And then if he or she, so this bookkeeper, sees that there is a problem, they will contact you and say, Hilton, you're spending much more on this specific area. Why is that? Let's deep dive together. So again, delegate. You cannot do everything. If you are tired at the end of the day because you have been working physically and everything, it's correct that you pay a bookkeeper £30 an hour, but that £30 an hour will allow you to save a huge amount of money potentially.
Yes. Yes.
And so it's well spent money. Okay.
Yeah.
But be on top of your numbers. That's so important.
Yeah, that brings to mind. I did another podcast with a lady called Cassia, and she built a loft conversion company here in the UK.
Yeah.
And she was on top of the numbers, and she eventually got the numbers correct, packaged everything, and then sold the actual loft conversion company
Yes.
to another person. And without those numbers, it couldn't happen correctly.
Absolutely.
And without the accountancy systems and things like that.
No, absolutely. And I listened to that podcast. It was incredible. She's very inspirational, really nice lady. And but the other thing is, it's not only looking at the numbers. It's also important to manage cash flow because, as you might know, cash flow is the key reason why company succeed or don't succeed. I'm addicted to cash flow management. I'm obsessed by cash flow management. And if I may say, share my tip or one of the tip on the cash flow management. Everybody's got a bank account in business or private, and they run everything through that bank account. I don't, because it's important to create what they call sub accounts and accrue money for specific things. So, for example, in all my businesses, I've got a main account, I call it a day-to-day account, but then I've got one sub account for maintenance. As you know, maintenance is unpredictable. We don't know when it happens, but it will happen at one point. It's part of the game. It will happen that you will have maintenance at some point during a year in every single house. So every month, automatically, there is a money move from my day-to-day account to this maintenance account of X%. For me, it's a specific amount of money because I know how much over the year I spend as an average. So I just put that money there. And then I've got the same sub account for tax. Because I know exactly how much money I'm going to make during the year, more or less, 10, 20% more or less, I accrue every month 1/12 of what I think it will be my tax bill at the end of the year. So when I need to pay the bills, the tax, if I need to pay the tax in 5 days' time, on the 1st of October, I don't panic. I've got the money there. I've been accrued that money over the year, the 12 months, and now I just need to get it. Then, if by chance I will have a bill for tax which is much less than what I've accrued, it's okay. I've got extra cash, which is a bonus. Okay.
Yes.
But going in panic because the boiler packs up, so you need to find £1,500 to replace the boiler, or because your tax bill is big, it creates a lot of stress that will not allow you then to run your business, properly because you are worried about money. And if you're worried
Yes.
about money, then your head is quite fogged, and so you don't think smartly and clearly, obviously, because you are worried about that. So I do the same in my private life. I've got an account, sub-account for holidays, where I put
Yes.
there every month and a month. I've got money for and a sub-account for tax, because even as a private person pay tax. And then my kids go to a private school, so I got the money in a sub-account for my education for my kids. But every time I need to have those expenses, I don't panic because I had planned it in advance. And this is for me fundamental. And this is something that, in my opinion, they should be teaching to school, to secondary school. They should teach cash flow management, because anyone on this planet, from the homeless to the CEO of Apple, we all need to manage cash flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
More or less, the amount is different, obviously, but everybody needs to manage it. And that's one of the skills that everybody should master at any time at school, in my opinion.
That is fantastic. What came to mind when you were speaking about that? You used the word obsessed,
Mm-hmm.
and
I am.
I think that is, when you lead with that, that is incredible to actually say that, because when you're obsessed with something, that is what generally what will work, because you're blocking out all the other noise and you're
Yeah,
just totally focusing on that particular thing, because it's about
absolutely.
winning. There's
Absolutely.
something
It's
we
not.
yes.
Sorry, sorry, sorry,
Yeah,
cut you.
there's something which came to mind as well. What Jim Rohn, who was one of my mentors, and I've actually got a lot of his content, and he said that as a young boy, you should have 2 bicycles and rent one to your friend.
It's smart.
And
It's smart.
that is the beginning of cash flow management.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're basically starting to understand money. And when you mentioned that about getting into schools where the young kids can understand, because I think your habits is what really runs through your life.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if you're getting it when you're young and you've got those habits in place, this is the money, this is what I put aside. I put some for savings, I put some for tax, I put some for maintenance, and this is what I've got left to play with. And I think those are great habits. And I think that is exactly the same thing in property. Can you
100%. Yeah.
you think that is true?
It's absolutely true, because then the money that is left in the day-to-day account is the real money you can play with. Okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, sometimes you think you got more money because of cash flow, but then at one point you will have a big bill, and then you are in trouble. So you think you are making much more money just because there is more money in the account, but the money in the account is not profit, it's cash. And
Yes.
the two things are completely different. Okay. And for me, being obsessed means that that matter is not negotiable. It's a fact.
Yes. Yeah.
It's my top priority. Nothing will derail me from the laser focus on that specific matter. And it's fun that you say about schools and so on. When we were in England, my youngest son is 12 now, but when he was around 9 or 10 years old. In his school, there was a very smart kids from that point of view, and I used to go to Tesco, get a big bag of Haribos, the sweeties,
Yeah.
and pay a ridiculous low price, like £2. And then he was selling every single Haribo sweet in the packet for 50p. So
Yes.
he bought 100 Haribos for £2, and then was selling every single Haribo for 50p. You can imagine the amount of money he was making.
Yes.
And this is all about creating cash flow from other things, and creating, you know, getting your the thing you want to do be paid by cash generating activities, which is all
Yes.
about. That's why we do properties. Okay, we buy property and we rent them, because then the cash flow coming from that investment can fuel my life. I'm in Mallorca thanks to the money that I'm generating from this asset. So, well, a lot of people tend to spend money in stuff that loses value. So you can buy a Porsche. It's a beautiful car. But that Porsche, as soon as you drive out of the garage, has lost 20% of value straight away.
Yes.
Okay. While my houses, they are not. So what we do is we invest the money instead to buy the Porsche, to buy a property, and then with the money coming from the property, we can lease the Porsche, and leasing it is a tax efficient way to get it. Okay,
Yeah.
so basically you use your cash in the most efficient way. Okay, but you need to invest in cash generating activities. Otherwise, it's as Kiyosaki used to say, is there are good debts and bad debts. Buying
Yes.
Porsche in a standard way is a bad debt because you lose value. Getting a mortgage for a house is a good debt because you are creating value, you're creating cash flow, and that is a good thing.
Yeah. Fantastic.
And that's
great.
why I love properties.
Yeah. I guess you're right. It's about the love of that. What does mindset come into this? Because I know through the mentees, if we touch on that side of it, what are you actually seeing towards you? You've got a lot of people come through your program. Some stay, and some do really, really well with properties. What is the mindset of the people coming through?
Mindset is everything. If your head is fogged, your business will suffer of that. And the key mindset skill, in my opinion, is consistency in taking action. Okay, and not giving up. So let's go into those two. So the consistent taking action is what I did in my first year. Every single day, I was spending an hour and a half, every single day, Monday to Saturday. There was nothing that could derail me from that one. But because I was taking action consistently every day, eventually, sooner or later, I got results. A lot of people tend to do nothing for 1, 2, 3 weeks, and then they work 8 hours on something, and then they drop it again, and then do it. That's what I do for my gym. Okay, I'm the most inconsistent person. I go there once, I get all excited, and then life, takes over, and I don't go for 2 weeks. So every time I go there, it's painful because my body never gets used to it, and my energy never kick in because I don't go consistent, and that's the biggest mistake. So for me, what I teach my mentees is you need to take action every day, at least 15 minutes a day, ideally an hour, but if you can't, 15 minutes. And everybody has got 15 minutes. Even Donald Trump has got 15 minutes free. Okay, so there are no excuses, but you need to take action all the time. And the second one is never give up. Life in property is not plain sailing. You can watch a TikTok video in Dubai of people on Porsches and stuff like that. That's not the reality. It's an emotional roller coaster. Okay, there are moments where you feel on top of the world, and moments where you are at the bottom of the world. Okay, but the key thing is you need to have a clear reason why you are doing all of that. So for me, was one of the key reasons was I want to be on that beach that is under my house here. Okay, so that has always been my vision. And so the days where I had a bad day, because it will happen, it still happen now. Sometimes I just focus and say, okay, this is a bad day, but should I give up or should I keep going? Because eventually I want to be on the beach down there. And because I really want to be on that beach, I never give up. And I'm on the beach now. Okay. So it's really, really important. You have those two things: consistency in action every single day and never give up mindset. If you got those two things, the likelihood of succeeding is pretty good.
Good, awesome. I guess it's what is called your big why. Why are you getting up in the morning?
Absolutely.
Why are you doing this? Why are you going through this struggle?
Absolutely.
And it's going to fluctuate at times.
Absolutely,
There's
absolutely.
days when it's fantastic and days when
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
really, really important. I like that. That's what you're saying, consistency.
Yeah, yeah. And you are very big in mindset as well. I know you pretty well. And for you as well, it's very important in the mindset. And even for me, for example, one way to relax is doing sport. I
Yeah,
sweat my stress. That's the way. My wife is completely opposite. My wife needs calm or relaxing. She goes for a walk on the beach. If I go on a walk on the beach, I come back with my hair like this because I've been thinking about all my problems. I need to do spinning class with 200 beats a moment to switch off my brain. We are all
yeah,
different. As long
yes,
as you know what works for you, what works for your mindset, for relaxing your head, your mind, just do it because that's the most important thing. Because if your mind is not right, you will suffer personally and business-wise.
yes,
And that's really important. And talk to everyone, especially us as a man. We tend to be, much more, "Oh, I'm all good. It's not true. A lot of us are suffering. Talk, open up, get off the chest, and you will discover that people who might seem incredible, they're going through the same struggle as you. You talk to each other, help each other, and that's very, very important. And yeah.
yeah. That's so true because the work I've done with you as well, Giuseppe. One of the things which was evident is the community.
Good.
And you kind of just that problem over there is what I've got. This was a solution here, and you can just build really quickly by
Absolutely.
having the right people around you with the same struggles. Can you unpack that
Absolutely.
a bit?
Yeah, so being part of a group, of a community, you can first of all inspire each other. So if you see somebody start like you and is doing slightly better, you get motivated to do the same.
Yeah,
Okay. But the other thing is we don't reinvent the wheel every single day. 90% of the issues are issues that most of the people are struggling with, and they've got a solution with. So if you share the issue and the solution, somebody else might benefit from it. That's why I love my group mentoring because we are all there together. And sometimes somebody say, "Oh, I had this problem," and somebody else in the same group will say, "Well, I had the same problem, and that's the way I solved it." Okay, you can copy me.
yes,
Okay, so don't reinvent the wheel. See who has achieved what you want to achieve successfully and copy it.
yes,
Okay, so don't put your ego in front of everything and say, "Oh, I'm the smartest one. I've got a unique solution." A lot of solutions are common. Just copy from the one who have succeeded in solving that solution and do the same. And that's
yes,
that's that's the beauty of that. So I probably more the way I am. I'm a very sociable person. I love being part of groups and community and so on. That's why we created the UK and Dubai Property Accelerator community now, where we
yeah,
want really people to go together, help each other, inspire each other, and have fun with each other. Because
yes,
life is tough. If you watch the news, it's pretty grim situation at the moment. You need to have fun as well. So I always, as you know, every time we have the chat, we need to have a laugh as well. In one point, it's important. It's important. Otherwise, gosh, it's always serious, serious, and sad and sad. That's not life. Let's have a chat, a laugh as well. It's really important. Okay,
yeah,
so enjoy the journey. And that's
yes,
probably one of my biggest regrets because at the beginning I didn't really enjoy the journey. I was so focused on the result, and you cannot get your time back, and that's so. If I can give a suggestion, an advice, enjoy the journey because the journey is your life. If your journey is sad, stressful, and so on, your life is sad, stressful, and so on. So try to enjoy it. And if you are not enjoying it, means that there is something wrong in what you are doing, something that is not working. Focus on what is not making you happy and fix it. Because that's the
yeah.
top priority.
Yeah, yeah, I hear that, and what I find in my journey, my construction journey, it was very fast at the beginning, and it then it became more aggravation.
Yeah.
And as it grew, it became more aggravation because of the thing what you mentioned about looking at the numbers correctly. You can expand and you're getting another job here, another job there, and you're going at it, and it becomes more and more stressful, more and more aggravation. Here in construction, there's a lot of I'm going to do another podcast with somebody else regarding builders and contractors who they go through a lot of stress towards their business because they're not really looking after themselves. They would drink, they would smoke, they would all these other things, which is kind of like a dopamine hit in terms of
Absolutely. Yeah.
Getting through that. But that's another podcast anyway. But
Yeah.
anyway, it's really, before we come to the end of this, Giuseppe, you mentioned about the doing that journey where you've started out and you got a really successful business now, and you started to go into the UK, Dubai, and you're working with AMSA. Could you unpack that part of it as well?
Yeah, so basically, I've been, I built my business, the restaurant business, my HMO business, and we have achieved the goals we want to achieve, which is great. And as I said earlier, I think the key ingredient for what I've done is the consistency of actions and never give up. I had bad days. I don't even try to hide that. But because my why was so strong, I never gave up. Still had bad days where I was grumpy. So, things move on. My first mentor say, as an average in a year, a property investor will have 40 bad days. So when one of those days happen, tell yourself it's one of those 40s. In 1 or 2 days, everything will be okay. And it is really like that. Okay. And so I did all of that. And then I had 5 mentors in my life, and they all changed my life for better. And so I decided, as I said, in 2021 to start coaching people, and I really enjoy it. I'm still doing it. I'm still enjoying it. But then we, with Amjad and Steve, we decided that we want to create a really big community, and this was inspired by, as you know, Hylton, we run the property network event in London every month, and but this is a small thing. It happens once a month or every 2 months for 2, 3 hours, and that's it. And we said, how can we make that amazing experience happening every single day? Obviously, we cannot be in a room every single day with a lot of people because we got a life. So we discover a platform called School, SKOOL, where you can build a community where people really can aggregate together and help each other, inspire each other. And because between me, Amgad, and Steve, we got a huge experience in properties, all different things, but cumulative, we cover everything. We decided to create this community where we are going to put a huge amount of tutorials where you can learn a huge amount of things. And then, as I said, through the chat facility of that community, you can help each other. You can ask questions to us and we reply immediately. And so we just want to help people to start and or scale up their business UK, and if they want, because now a lot of people wants to move abroad, we also show how you can move abroad in Dubai, and I live in Mallorca in Spain at the moment, and I'm the live example that it can be done. I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I had a program, I had people helping me, I had the right mindset, action taken every day, and never give up. And that's where I am. And so we are very excited. We will launch it in the next 1, 2 weeks. If anyone who is listening here is interested, can contact me on Giuseppe Leone, Rent to Rent Expert on Instagram. And and I welcome all of you guys. It will be good fun. And hopefully you will be part of it. It will be good
All
to
right,
be on board.
we'll put it in the feed as well for you and Giuseppe. But Giuseppe, Leona, thank you for your time, and you've unpacked some great tips there. especially about the 40 bad days. So 40 bad days a year, we all get them,
We
and
do.
we'll have absolutely amazing days and amazing times as well. So
Absolutely. So,
thanks for your time today.
thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everyone. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
If today's episode sparked something in you, remember it's not just building a business, but it's building a lifestyle. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with somebody who needs to hear it, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss our next conversation. Until the next time, keep taking bold steps towards your goals.